Hey everyone, Dr. Foster here, the success coach with MaximumChange.com. I get messages all the time from fans, people that are following me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. I get these messages from you and I do read them. And in many times when you get a response, it's actually coming from me. So I'm really excited about that. But I want to give a shout out to Chris Bradley, who I was communicating with today. And I'm really excited. I hope I said your name right, Chris Bradley. Yes, I did. So I want to give a shout out to him because he was communicating with me earlier today. He has started a clothing line that he's really excited about, and he's asked several questions. And so I wanted to jump on here and try to answer some of the questions. Now, please understand that when you're starting a business, okay, that the idea of selling something, selling a pen or earbuds, selling something is quite easy. Got this a chapstick or something. So the idea of selling something comes across as being easy, but there are undercurrents and under layers of business that become very complex. And even though you're quite intelligent and you have a lot of understanding of business terminology, let's say, sometimes those things get mixed up, jumbled up, and they get a little confusing. So I want to try to explain some things as simplistically as I can. I don't want to use big words, and I'm not trying to insult you by saying that, but what I find is a lot of times that you see these trainings that come online or videos like this, and the people use theory and concepts that just assume that you know everything about business. So here's the deal. If you're good with this, I'm going to make a deal with you. I'm not going to try to talk over your head. I'm not going to try to use, PhD language. I'm just going to lay it out there as plain and simple as possible, and maybe even give you a few plain analogies. I don't want to make this so complex that it's clear as mud. Is that a deal? Okay, so Chris Bradley, I think he's over in Indiana. Seems like a really nice guy. I haven't met him personally, but I've chatted with him online. And he had a question that was basically asking about LLCs and websites and the like. And so I want to see if I have that message because I want to recreate it. So that I could tell you. One moment here. Nope, it's not there. So basically what he was asking, and I can't seem to find the message, he was asking about starting a business. Here we go. I've got it here. I want to read the message because I think it'll make sense once I get to it. Done. Okay. So he said, I want to own a personal LLC. I want to start a business. All I have to do is it all that I have to do is buy a domain and start building and then pretty much post anything that does not violate Facebook. So what he's asking me is, how do I start a business? Do I have to start with a personal LLC? Can I go buy a domain name? Can I, build a website? How can I post things without violating Facebook? He wants to market and promote his clothing line that he's come up with. And so basically he's saying, how do I start my business? So here's the thing. He's asked several different questions. So let's start with the first one, and that is the LLC issue. Now, when we use the terminology LLC, sole proprietorship, partnerships, when we use terminology like S Corp and C Corp, we are talking about, and by the way, there's a B Corp as well, but we're not going to get into that. We're talking about basically a tax structure that the government has set aside for you to run a business. And so this is basically how you tell the government how much money you made and how much you spent, you expended, so that you can give them the net income. Now, if you remember from a video I did about a week or so ago, net income is nothing more than the money you made less the money you spent, and whatever's left over is your net income. Now, you could also have a net loss, which means you spent more than you got. It probably means that you had to use some money out of your own pocket, or you got a loan or something. So what the business structures are, when we talk about proprietorships, partnerships, limited liability, and all that, all it is some formality that the government has given on the way you claim information. Now, let's just talk about a sole proprietor. So sole proprietor is basically someone who started a business and they don't have a business license. They're just kind of working out of, the trunk of their car, or, the spare bedroom of their house, or whatever. And they're not really making tons of money right now. And basically the advantage of having a sole proprietorship is that it's a default setup for a single owner, and it requires little or no paperwork, and the owner has total control of the profits that pass through to their personal tax return. Now, what I mean by that is, if I make $1, I have to claim that dollar on my personal income tax. Now, anything I talk about tax related, I want you to understand I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant. I'm just giving you a 100,000-foot view of someone who has run businesses for 25 years. Now, I was a financial manager for a media company for a number of years, but I'm not going to speak to you as an authoritative person when it comes to this. So if you need any help with this, I encourage you, when it comes to the tax stuff, you need to talk to your CPA or your accountant, or find a CPA or accountant that you trust. So anyhow, let's talk about this. The disadvantage of a sole proprietor. This means that you've said, hey, I'm in business, and you're just going to put it all on your personal income tax. The disadvantage to a sole proprietor is there's no separation between the business and the personal liability. So basically, it's a poor vehicle for raising money from an investor standpoint, and sometimes it's a poor position to be in to go to a bank or other loan agency. Now, I talked yesterday about loans, and I'm not really a big advocate of it, but if you're wanting to find some sort of business financing, sole proprietorship is going to be the least reliable for you getting funding. Now, there's also this thing called general partnership. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but it's basically a default setup for multi-owners, and it again requires little or no paperwork, and the owners divide the control of the company as they see fit, and they pass through the profits to their personal returns, just like a sole proprietor. So the only difference is sole is one, general is many. Several, okay? And again, there's no separation between the business and personal liability, and there's possibility for partnership conflicts, and it's also a poor vehicle for raising money. Now let's talk about the limited liability, because Chris asked me about an LLC. Now, LLC is where we start into a more formal structure from a tax standpoint, okay? It provides partnership structure, but also makes it easier to raise external capital. So in other words, you have partners that come, and so I'm a partner, you're a partner, and I come to the table and I say, okay, I've got $10, you got $10. So now we've come to the table, we own 50-50 of the company, it's $20 in the coffers, and so the responsibilities, everything is divided between us. Now that is a limited partnership. Now the limited partnership has no control in the management of the business, all right? They basically own the business, but they don't necessarily manage the business. Now, this is where Chris asked me about the LLC, the limited liability company, or limited liability corporation, we sometimes call it. This is a protection from personal liability. It's less record keeping than maybe a C Corp or an S Corp. The profit responsibility is divided among the members, okay? So limited liability company, LLC, is where the protections start for the owners. there is less record keeping, and the profits are the responsibility and easily divided among the members or owners, okay? It's not appropriate if you want to raise venture capital. VC is another way of saying that, or investor money. So if you're going for an angel investor or something like that, they're going to be less likely to get involved with an LLC. So the entire income of the LLC members are subject to self-employment tax, meaning it goes to your personal employment, okay? It flows through. So you can avoid these type of things with a corporation. So just keep that in mind. Now let's talk about the C Corp. And that is where we have protection from personal liability. It's easy to raise capital. It's seen as an established entity. Most companies that you hear about, whether it be Google or Tesla or whatever, they're typically C Corps. Now, the downside to a C Corp is it's costly to form, and there's a double taxation. There's extensive paperwork requirements and so forth. When I say double taxation, what I mean is you as the owner pay taxes for the business, okay? But then you pay taxes for any income that you pull out of that business. And it's usually on a K form, I believe. So you want to check with your CPA on that. I believe you also have to deal with a K form when it comes to LLCs and S Corps. I had an S Corp and I had a K form. So now, it gets a little more complex in the way my business is set up. But a C Corp protects you from personal liability. It's easy to raise capital. But let's talk about an S Corp. This is also protection from personal liability, but the profits pass through the owner's personal tax return. So there's not really double taxation there. You're taxed once, but you're taxed at your personal income. So if you're already at the top of, or you're almost at the top of your bracket, and then your company's making really good money, guess what? It's going to move you to a higher bracket. So you need to keep that in mind. On a C Corp, it's a little bit different. Again, consult with your CPA on that. So S Corps, the disadvantage is only some companies are eligible for, raising money and so forth. And there's more limits on issuing shares. So the S Corp, there's a limit on the number of shares you can issue. C Corp, there is less limits on that. That's where you can move into if you want to go public or whatever. You're usually a C Corp. So here's the deal. It doesn't matter what level you pick, what structure you pick for your business. What matters is how you want that to flow through on your taxes. Now, you're going to need to go to the IRS to get a FEID number if you want to go set up a bank account. So if you're sole proprietor, sometimes banks will let you set up a second bank account in your name because you're not a business per se. But once you get into where you're wanting to run a business, they're going to say, okay, where's your federal ID number? So you've got to go to the IRS and say, I need a federal ID number. That means that at some point you will probably have to pay some sort of taxes when it comes to payroll and so forth. That's what the federal ID number is also for. So you're going to, again, consult your CPA on all of this. But here's the deal. When you go to set up yourself as an official business, you have to check with your local, like your city government or township government. You need to check with your county. If you're here in the U.S., we have cities, counties, states, and then national, which is federal. So you'll want to check with your state and local business licensing departments to make sure that you're forming your proper business licenses. And sometimes you have to pay a local license, and sometimes you have to pay even a county license, and sometimes you have to pay a state license. Now, the good news is a lot of states have done away with those multiple layers, but you need to check with your local municipality and find out how they run that. Obviously, on the federal side, there are rules for running a business, and it usually starts with the federal ID number and how you're going to claim that business on your taxes, okay? So make sure that you're getting wise advice. Now, the thing of it is, so Chris was asking me, so I want an LLC, and well, it doesn't matter what you choose to set up your business. You just have to choose one of those. And that really doesn't have anything to do with your website. So he said, well, should I go buy a domain name and all that? Well, yes, if you're going to start a business, it's probably better to go out and get a domain name. You can go to websites like GoDaddy or one of those. I think HostGator sells domain names. And I go through Network Solution. I've been with them for years, and they're one of the first domain products. They actually, I believe, were part of the ICANN system or the government system that controlled those. And so I ended up starting with them years ago. So I'm kind of a Luddite when it comes to that. I was an early adopter, and I've just stayed with them. But you can go to these other websites like GoDaddy and so forth and get your domain name. And a lot of times, and Network Solutions will do this, GoDaddy will do it, I know HostGator will do it, you can actually host your website there. Now make sure that when you're looking at their product, make sure that if you don't know anything about building websites, that you either go hire someone, which is going to probably cost you, on the low end, maybe $1,500 to $3,000. On the high end, it could be, tens of thousands of dollars. So be careful. Don't get crazy with that. But I use Wix, Wix.com. They're located in the Middle East. I think they're in Israel. But Wix.com is a great drag and drop, plug and play type system for people who are not website developers. And you can set up these beautiful websites. So if you go to my website at MaximumChange.com, which the link is right over here, that's a Wix website. And so I just drag and drop, and you can go in and change the text and whatever. So you can set up a website without having one of those formal structures in place, which is cool. So you can go ahead and do that at any time. Now, a website, you're going to pay for that website domain name. You're going to pay for that once a year. You're basically paying for it each year. You're also going to pay for the hosting. Now, I pay for it once a year for the hosting and once a year for the domain name. Some places will let you buy multiple years on the domain name. I have one domain name that I've paid for 10 years. So it's out there, right? So you want to make sure that you just go ahead and set that up, right? You don't need to wait for a formal business structure to get that going. Where it's going to start affecting you is when you want to set up a PayPal account or some sort of credit card processing. And by the way, PayPal's pretty easy, but there's also SquareUp, which is a pretty good product. And again, I'm not trying to endorse these companies because they're paying me. These are companies I use. I use Square or SquareUp. It's pretty good. And the cool thing about these companies is SquareUp, after you've been with them for a while and you've processed and you're not getting any chargebacks, which means someone asked for their money back, once you get that in play for a little bit, what they will do is they will start giving you your money within 24 hours. So you get your money pretty quick into your bank account, which means you have to have a federal ID number to get that business bank account. On PayPal, you can have a personal PayPal account, but it's better that you set up a business PayPal account because you get more functions, including you'll get a business debit card, which is really cool. And also PayPal allows you to get your funds within 1 to 3 business days once you've been established with them. So those are a couple of things that you'll want to keep in mind. Now Chris also asked me about spam and making sure that you can post things and get followers and people that are interested in your product or service. So spamming, everyone has their own opinion about what spamming is. And so I might say, hey, John, that was a great comment you had. I'd love for you to check out my website and see what you think of it. And, I put my website address there. Well, someone might think that's spam. And maybe it is because it was not asked, your website wasn't asked for. So you have to be careful. Some people are really picky about it. And also there are some countries that have spamming laws. So if they feel like your email or something is spammy, they'll like say, well, it's a spam. Well, again, I think if your intent was just to inform, it, instead of your intent being I want to sell, if I'm just trying to inform, I don't feel that's as spammy as, I'm trying to get you to buy something. And so you're going to really need to do some research on spamming to make sure that you're in the guidelines. Where this really comes in particular concern is if you set up an email list, because there are certain rules and you can get what's called blacklisted. And that means that, when you send an email out, there are some servers that if your domain is on the blacklist, it just bounces your email out and you don't, the recipient doesn't get the email. Even if it's a legitimate email, like, hey, John, you want to have lunch today? It'll blacklist it, bounce it out, and they'll never get the email. So, keep that in mind. Really, the way that Facebook works, it's bad form or bad etiquette to go on. Let's say you'd go on to my business page, and you're selling pens, right? And every entrepreneur needs a pen. So it'd be in bad etiquette to go and to post on there, hey, buy my pens, without first getting my permission as the owner of that page. That's spamming in essence. A lot of times I'll get on these entrepreneur boards on Facebook, and it's, people that are starting businesses, and you get on there and you say, hey, my name's Philip, and my first time here. And then you get inundated with, direct messaging, and then they'll post underneath there, oh, you need to buy into my network marketing program, and you need to buy my shirt, you need to buy my pens, and you need to buy my insurance. That's spamming, okay? Because I didn't ask for that information. And so it drives me crazy because I'm like, why don't you get to know me? So here's a key for you if you're a business owner. And I've talked about this before. If you want to sell a product, make sure that your target audience is interested in what you're selling, number one. And number two, don't assume that I know who you are until you've introduced yourself. See, I had someone the other day contact me, and they said, hey, I want to talk to you, maybe collaborate with you. And I'm like, okay, well, introduce yourself first. I want to know who you are. I want to know what you do. Turns out the guy's really cool. I'm going to be talking with him soon. But the point is that, you need to build a relationship with me if you want me to buy something from you, right? And so that becomes spammy at that point where, it's kind of like the shark attack. It's like fresh meat in the water. The blood is moving and the meat's in there, and maybe the fish is a little wounded and thrashing around. The shark comes and attacks, right? That's spammy, right? We don't want to go there. So here's what I would do if I were you. I would ask myself, if someone came to me that I didn't know and just started talking to me about their product or service, would I walk away? And the answer is probably yes, if you're really honest with yourself. It's kind of like, let me use this analogy. There's a beautiful woman standing at the bus stop, or if you prefer, a very handsome man, okay? I don't care. So there's a beautiful, handsome, whatever person standing there. And you walk up to them, and instead of being flirtatious or trying to get their number for coffee or a date, you immediately say, hey, you want to get married? That's kind of the same thing about I get on a website and you immediately come up and say, hey, you need this pen. No, I don't. I actually have a cup full of pens and pencils. I don't need your pen, right? It's not to say that your pen is not any good. It's not to say that your product is not good. But the fact of the matter is you went from, hey, can we exchange numbers to have coffee, to I'm married with children, right? So keep that in mind the next time you're trying to sell something. Is we want to build a relationship with someone. We want to get to know them. We want to cultivate that relationship. We don't want to jump in to married with children, house and a mortgage, right? Okay. So I hope that this was helpful to you. Again, I'm trying to give you 100,000-foot view of some of the issues that I'm going to be digging deeper into in the coming days and months. And in fact, I'm putting together an overview of business seminar, which I hope to present to everyone in the near future. Maybe by the early summer, I'm going to have this done, because it's a lot of content and videos, and it's really cool what's getting ready to happen. I think you're going to really enjoy it, and I will be posting links to it as it is available. And you'll have to sign up for it, but it's free to sign up, so don't worry about that. And I think that, well, I'm just going to say it right now. I'm not going to charge anything for this initial training that I'm going to be offering. It's just called Introduction to Business or Business Basics. And so I'm going to try to give you this 100,000-foot view of different areas of business, whether it be starting a business, marketing, you know, some of the accounting things that I've talked about. And again, anything I talk about that's related to accounting or a legal situation, I want to make sure that you take what I say as a platform to start your research on, and to go to a CPA or an attorney or whomever and say, you know, I'm interested in this. I've heard this, and this. What say you? Now, I'm okay if an attorney says, no, actually, that's not the way that works, or a CPA says, no, that's not actually the way. Let me tell you the whole story, because I'm already telling you that I'm not the CPA and I'm not the attorney. I'm telling you what I know from my 25 years of business experience running organizations, multi-million-dollar, multinational corporations with, you know, employees all around the world, you know, millions of dollars in assets and so forth. That I'm just telling you from my experience of running successful businesses and helping people to start and grow and expand and become more successful in their businesses. And so don't take my word for it so much as take it as a springboard sometimes, to, especially if I say you're going to need to get professional advice in this area. I'm just going to tell you what I know. If I don't say that, then it's fair game, right? Because those are two areas that I will always default to the professional, and that's when you're talking about taxes and when you're talking about issues that are of legal nature, right? All right. Well, I hope this has been helpful to you. I would love to hear from you. If you wouldn't mind, comment on this video. It should be off here to the side, but if not, comment below. I'd love to hear your comments on this video, maybe ask some more questions, and I would even be willing to jump in and do another video answering more of your questions. And again, a shout out to Chris Bradley, who is starting a clothing line, and I'm really excited about what he's doing, and I hope in the coming, maybe there'll be a point where I'll get to do a live video with some of you like Chris and answer some more questions live and let you experience my coaching at that point. So these are some really exciting things that are going on. I'm so excited to hear from you guys. Our followership here on Facebook is growing. I just went over 11,000 followers on LinkedIn. I'm around 20,000 followers on Instagram. So I've got a lot of things going on. I'm really excited about working on this curriculum. And so in the coming days, coming months, I think you're going to hear some really exciting stuff going on as the momentum builds. I've been doing this for 15 years. I'm going into my 16th year, and I'm just getting started, okay? I am just getting started. So be awesome. Have a great day. Make it happen. Work your tail off, because it's not about luck, right? It's about hard work and determination. I'm Dr. Foster, the Success Coach with MaximumChange.com. Have a great day.